All right. This is the part where I get to break down racism on both sides of the line. Now, obviously, the real issue here is police brutality, police murdering people. Now, then there's all these people who have been murdered by police, and we got racist assholes on both sides of the line using people who were killed by police as an excuse for their racism. Now, where did BLM start? How many of y'all know this? Let's look it up. We'll read what Wikipedia has to say. BLM. Actually, that's Bureau of Land Management. Black Lives Matter. By the way, I've seen black people wearing shirts that say all lives matter. I've seen that in this very town. We don't have very many black folks here for years and years and years. But ever since this COVID thing started happening, we get a lot of black people traveling through. Black Lives Matter Home. The official Black Lives Matter global network builds power to bring justice, healing, and freedom to black people across the globe. But only black people. Meanwhile, white lives do matter. They do, and that's not racist. It's equality. Now, leave it to a bunch of racists to make a police brutality issue, a issue of police victimizing the most poor people in America. Leave it to a racist hate group to do what? Well, pretend it's only happening to black folks, among other things. Now it says Black Lives Matter is a decentralized movement advocating for nonviolent civil disobedience in protest against incidents of police brutality and all racially motivated violence against African American people. Now, the very first part there is police brutality, first of all, and second of all, what are people doing about racially motivated violence by African American people? Wait, hold on a second. African American? That's fucking bullshit. Bullshit. African American. If you were born here, you're an American. Just because the color of your skin is dark does not mean that you came from Africa. You could be from Haiti. You could be from India. Hell, you could be from Australia too. Now, the problem is that we've got a whole bunch of racist assholes wanting to use a whole bunch of cases where police are murdering people and saying, oh, well, look at this one. Let's compare this one with this one with this one. See, we're more this and we're more that, and you are this and you're that, and these people are that. Holy shit. The issue here is police brutality. The most victimized people in America are victimized because of your excuses as the American public. Your excuses why somebody else deserves it and you don't. Like the KKK making excuses why black people deserve this. Well, that's not okay. Then we got BLM making excuses why white people deserve this. How is victimizing the other victims going to show how? It doesn't fucking matter, does it? It really doesn't. All of you racists, regardless of what side of the line you're on, have chosen racism and have chosen to go out of your way to ignore police brutality in order to fight your little race war. Meanwhile, most of the people that the police killed in 2019 were disabled. The second on that list is the homeless. Over half the people that the police killed last year were disabled. And almost half of those killed last year by police were homeless. But then again, we got these racists on both sides making excuses why the homeless deserve it. The homeless must have chosen it. Homeless people are all drug dealers, thugs, thieves, blah, blah, fucking blah. And then we got black people accusing every white person of being like that. All you white people, well, fuck you. Do I get to say all you black people? No, that's racist. But if it's racist for me to say all of you black people, it is just as racist for you to say all of you white people. Sure, white people account for almost 50% of the citizens here in the United States. However, the homeless account for 0.2% of the population. 0.2. Black people account for 13% of the population. 0.2% of the population accounts for 81% of those incarcerated. And 13% of the population accounts for 21% of the incarcerated. So who's really the most marginalized people in America? Why are the most abused people in America abused? Now, if we're just talking about police brutality, then we can forget about the kids, right? Well, no. Absolutely not. But let's go with the two groups that police kill the most. The disabled, which they get away with by calling them mentally ill. Well, how's that right? What if you have a physical disability? Does that mean you're mentally ill? But meanwhile, the same excuses that racist white people are using, the same excuses that racist black people are using, and the same excuses that the police are using, they're all using the same excuses. Every one of them. You want to show me that, well, this black person shouldn't have been killed, but this white guy right here, we're going to compare him with, who was also killed by the police while unarmed. We're going to make excuses why it's okay. Black Lives Matter started over a man being choked to death for selling illegal cigarettes. And then there was a white person who was killed because he had marijuana. He wasn't selling it. He wasn't even smoking it. But that was the police's excuse why it was okay to murder that man. So then we got BLM racists saying, oh, well, look at this. All this guy was messing around with was cigarettes. And we got this guy over here who's selling drugs. Hold on a second. You're just going to accuse this guy of selling drugs? The police camera shows completely different. Shows that he wasn't selling anything. He was just straight up shot, and then they found his pot. Well, then after that, we ended up with a whole bunch of people doing this. Oh, well, look at, this black guy deserved it because he had a taser. Oh, this white guy deserved it because he had a gun. The Second Amendment is your right to keep and bear arms in order to protect your First Amendment and the Constitution. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we the people. But we aren't we the people. See, Black Lives Matter has shown that they don't give a fuck about the homeless. There are too many hateful comments from that group. It's worse than the KKK. Can you imagine what it's like for somebody who's of Hebrew descent to say that, well, there's a racist hate group that's worse than the KKK. And surprisingly, it's not even white people who are doing all this stuff. Now, that's not to say that white people aren't taking part. I've seen lots of white people on both sides of the line taking part, spreading their propaganda and hate according to whatever their bullshit belief is. Meanwhile, none of them bother to look up the information that they're spouting about. I'm gonna take this here. This is a Dallas police body camera. Shows how the mentally ill are treated nationwide. It doesn't matter what excuse you make, it's still wrong. If you do it to a black person, it's wrong. If you do it to a white person, it's just as wrong. If you are a black person committing a crime, it is wrong. If you are a white person committing a crime, it is wrong. However, if you are defending your life, you are not committing a crime. You are literally not committing a crime if you are defending your life. Were those police officers in that last video, were they defending their lives? No. You know, I actually typed up about what those officers did and how they flanked that man. How he was straight up executed. And then after I typed that out, turns out there's a lot of other people that typed that too. They saw the same things that I did. First of all, the police mumbled their announcement. They did it loud, but we can barely understand what the police are saying when they announce themselves on the body camera that is only a couple of inches below the mouth of the person saying it. It sounds like he says something mumbled and then please. Please what? Please what? So those police flanked his door. They knocked on his door. They didn't announce themselves properly. When he opened the door, they shot him just for having a gun. Having a gun in your own house is not illegal. He wasn't pointing at anyone. He wasn't threatening anyone with it. And while that guy was telling this man, put his hands up, the man is putting his hands up and going to the ground in a submissive position. And that's when he is fucking blasted by the guy on the other side. Now, meanwhile, both of these cops intentionally stood on different sides of the door. They intentionally did not present themselves in front of the people so that they could be seen. And the other officer was already firing his gun off before that officer with the flashlight, who is blinding this dude with a fucking flashlight, holy dear fucking God. And meanwhile, there's a bunch of black folks getting on there having a heyday, thinking that it's fucking hilarious. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. You know, he deserved this. Blah, blah, blah. Really? You don't like hearing that shit when it happens to black people, do you? Meanwhile, BLM doesn't give a fuck about the homeless. The KKK doesn't give a fuck about the homeless. The police don't give a fuck about the homeless. And most of you don't give a fuck about the homeless. And guess what? Y'all don't seem to care about the disabled either. Black people, white people, police, it doesn't matter. You all make those excuses. All of you, the American public, make excuses to do nothing about it. You would rather bicker amongst yourselves than go after the police for what they've done. The people least likely to be armed in this country are disabled people and the homeless. There are less homeless people with firearms than there are felons with firearms per capita. I want you to think about that. There are more felons with guns per capita than there are homeless people with guns. That's why the homeless are the easiest to victimize. When black people have a bad day, they take it out on the homeless. When white people have a bad day, they take it out on the homeless. When police have a bad day, they take it out on the homeless. And all of them know that that shit ain't cool. That shit is fucking wrong. You walk into a courtroom and they say, hey, why did you do this to him? You say, because he's black. Boom! You're going to jail. You just committed a hate crime. Of course, you walk in, same exact situation. You walk in there and say, why? Because he's homeless. Oh, well, now it's magically justified. He's mentally ill. Now it's magically justified. And you people eat it up. You want to call me racist for saying you people? I don't care what fucking color you are. If you're an American fucking citizen and you ain't doing shit about this, you're a fuck up and a fucking coward and a goddamn traitor. If you want to make every excuse that you can why it's magically okay for police to murder black people, you're a fucking piece of shit. If you want to make every excuses that you can why it's somehow magically justified when police murder a white person, you're just as big of a piece of shit. Also, if you are homeless or disabled and are targeted because you are homeless or disabled, then you are part of the most marginalized people in America. You want to make false claims like black people are the most marginalized people in America? Like they are the most victimized in America? Shit, over half of the crimes, probably more, where black people are claiming that they were unjustly victimized for the color of their skin, it's black people playing victim, just as when women destroy a man's life, they are taught to play victim. When you teach someone to play victim, then you are shitting on everybody who is actually being victimized. What Zaid Atkinson did, prime example. Yes, he was victimized. No, he was not victimized for the color of his skin. And at the very beginning, well, he made it seem like he was going to come out with that. Of course, then you got assholes like Darren O'Connor and you get the attorneys into it. And pretty soon, every shred of the truth has gone out the goddamn window. Meanwhile, they want you to put your hand on a book and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Are you fucking kidding me? You refuse to allow me to speak, refuse to allow me to show evidence, refuse to allow me to face my accusers, and then justify it by saying I'm mentally ill. I'm smarter than most of you. And that's the part that sucks. Having to deal with fucking morons on both sides. Now, how can I say both sides when really there's three? There's the racist white side, there's the racist black side, and then there's the police bias. Are all police officers racist? Did those black officers that killed that black kid, did you call that racist? No, those were black officers who straight up murdered a little black kid. Little. How old was that kid? 14, 13? And then people want to ignore that from BLM. But then they want to point out that there were two white officers who ran over a black kid and then shot him. So you're going to ignore everything that shows what the real problem is. You're going to ignore everything that shows that these are crimes against the impoverished. See, here's the thing about black folks, white folks, and the police. They want their victim pool. It's a lot easier for you to accept your station in life if you have someone that you can walk on. Oh, yeah, sure, Donald Trump is walking on us, but it's fine because we can walk on the homeless and the disabled and tell them they wanted, needed it, chose it, or deserved it. But you say that about a black person in a house or a white person in a house. Well, hold on a second there. Now we need to face the fact that it is not a racist issue. And we need to say those two people in houses, regardless of the fact that they're different colors, you guys care about them because they have roofs over their heads. They are more human being to this society because they have roofs over their heads. Maybe it was handed to them by their dear, sweet, fucking goddamn daddy. Maybe grandma left them some property. That's nice. Good to have that. Gives you safety and security far more than any homeless person will ever have. Far more than the disabled will ever have. Now, there's also the medical community. A lot of people right now with the COVID and everything, people are like, we gotta say thank you to all those nurses. We gotta say thank you to all those nurses. Well, I disagree. We don't owe them a thank you for doing a job that they're paid for. We don't owe the police for doing a job that they're paid for. Where I'm pissed off at both the police and the medical community is that they're not doing the jobs that we pay them for. Now, in some of these instances with people in houses, the police may do their goddamn job. They may. There's a lot more chance that they will do their job if you are a concerned citizen with a roof. Oh my God, there's white people walking down my street. Oh my God, there's black people walking down my street. Oh my God, there's homeless people walking down my street. Now, who are the most victimized out of those three? Is it white people? Is it black people? Or is it homeless people? Ring, ding, 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 ding. That's right. It's homeless people. Homeless people. Homeless people. Now, the excuses that we get out of police, why somehow their crimes are justified, we also get to hear from the KKK and from BLM. When it's not their group. When it's not their group. There's a woman here, I used to know her from Chapel. I rescued her once and I helped her move once. And she lives in Sydney, Nebraska now. And she posts up a whole bunch of this crap. See, I show both sides. But you look at BLM, they're only showing one side, and it's a very biased side. A lot of white people are doing exactly the same thing. Rebecca does it. She talks about how she loves Jesus, loves Jesus, loves Jesus. Jesus did this, Jesus did that. Meanwhile, it was her parents who helped her out, not Jesus. She also posts up a bunch of stuff about how these black people deserve it. Really, do they? Does anyone really deserve to be murdered by a cop? There's those of you who stop there for a second. But you know, child molesters deserve that. Maybe if they're guilty, I could see that. Without an honest day in court, how are you going to know that? Also, are you going to go after actual rapists, actual child molesters? Or are you just going to pick some homeless person who's not pretty looking and go, well, he looks like a child molester, it should be okay to shoot him? I don't agree with killing at all. However, I'm not going to tell people just to take it. I'm not going to tell people you should just let it go. Why? Because they're being victimized. When you're being victimized and you are stuck in that scenario, it is not a fucking choice. You know, I fought for human rights for a lot of years because I don't have any. Because I don't have any rights. I have no representation. There is no BLM for the homeless. And then we got fake fucks like Darren O'Connor who pretend. A lot of people do this. That preacher up in Washington State, that dude's a scam artist. He's a fast talker, just like Doug Cowden. Those of you in Chapel, Nebraska who watch my videos, so you can go call people that I talk about. Why can't you tell Doug Cowden that I'm talking about him? Because he went to prison for being a child molester and he fucking died there. I'm glad he's dead. I really am. Just like I'm glad my grandfather's dead. Why is that? They're fucking child molesters. We're going to turn child molestation into a race issue too? I mean, the one thing that Black Lives Matters and these KKK motherfuckers just can't seem to get through their fucking head is that they are the problem. You are making excuses for things you don't want happening to you or your loved ones. And in many cases, you are taking an active role in victimizing others. Part of that is by ignoring simple facts like the fact that the ones who get the most media coverage are ones in houses. And the ones who get the least media coverage, or none at all, are the homeless. The product of your race war, BLM and KKK, is that the actual most victimized people in America you make excuses for. You make the very same excuses that you hate so much when people make those excuses at you. Now we want to look at Miss Santoya. No, that's not correct. My bad. Miss Santoya is a friend of Alicia and Natalie Bollinger. She's currently sitting in jail. She's also not black. She broke up with her girlfriend, relapsed, and called the cops on herself. That was actually a very responsible thing to do. She was having what's known as psychosis. People who smoke too much meth end up with this. Natalie, Alicia, Ted, it's just a byproduct of meth use. You smoke yourself stupid. Meanwhile, there's alcoholics out there going, yeah, fucking fuck those druggies, fucking. I drink beer once in a while. Yeah, sure, I have a beer once in a while, but beer's legal. Meanwhile, you're drinking a 30 rack a night. You beat up your wife and don't even remember it in the morning. Lucky for you, she's so drunk she doesn't remember it either. Welcome to Nebraska. There's a difference between being on repeat because you're drunk and repeating yourself because people aren't hearing you. Me, I don't drink. Having to deal with alcoholics bugs me. I got two people in this town that I kind of sort of get to hang out with. And one of them, he only wants to be social when he's drunk. And of course, you guys know how I feel about drunks. I can't handle that. You're a highly intelligent human being. You've got an IQ that's fucking up there as a motherfucker. But yeah, not when you're drinking. Oxygen deprivation is the result of alcohol. So you drink enough alcohol, you got no blood going to your brain, you're not thinking right. You don't realize that you just said what you're about to say 10 seconds ago. And then you think if you say it 5 different ways, no, we got it the first fucking time. See, when the police kill black people, we get to hear a bunch of racist white people saying why it's okay. When the police murder a white person, we get to hear from a bunch of racist black people why it's okay. Most police have a bias. Their job tells them that they have to go after homeless people because homeless people are all criminals because they're homeless. Oh God, homeless people urinate? Oh no. What? Homeless people were sleeping? God, we got to do something about that. How terrible. They shouldn't be allowed to sleep. What? He used a blanket so he doesn't freeze to death? Well, only people in houses should have that right. Oh my God. There's homeless people on public property. We need to charge them with trespassing. You make excuses why it's okay to happen to the homeless. The majority of black people who are locked up in the jails were homeless before being incarcerated. Majority nationwide. Of the 21% of the incarcerated populace of the United States, the majority of them were not picked up for the color of their skin. Most of them were picked up for poverty. Yeah, you're homeless, just like every other homeless, you're going to get victimized. But for you, because you're black, you want to say, oh, well, the cops were harassing me because I'm black. Really? Because I saw them do that very same thing to 4 white guys this morning. What the fuck are you talking about? It's because you're black. A lot of homeless black people, when they get harassed, they're like, I was harassed because I'm black. No, you're harassed because you're fucking homeless. And when you say, well, I was harassed because I'm black, and you want to speak out on social media or YouTube or wherever you want to speak out, that doesn't matter. BLM still doesn't give a fuck about you. They're still not going to tell your story because you aren't a human being. You're a broke person. You're a hobo. And your rights are based on your income. Actually, that's not entirely true either. Because you could have an income of $1 million a year, but if you own a business that costs you $1 million a year, you didn't make a penny. You're not going to be able to hire a lawyer. But you know what? The police will still be afraid to come harass you. Why? Because you own a fucking business. And if you own a big business where you're getting paid $1 million a year and it's big enough that you're having to spend that $1 million and put it right back into your company is big enough that the police are going to be afraid that you will squash them with your wallet. See, the police, they're also afraid. Black folks, very much so. White folks, very much so. Now, are all the people in these groups like that? No, there are exceptions to every rule. There really are. Like we get to hear about how men are the sexual predators. We've got over 200 teachers in a 10-year period, most of them female, having sex with underage male students. Now, who is more likely as a child molester, a registered child molester who had to go to prison, who is more likely to try to contact their victim after release? Women. Women are. Women are also more likely to be stalkers. They're more likely to get away with it. However, when it all comes down to it, y'all have to have your victim pool. When a cop is pissed off because the guy that he was trying to put away got away, he's going to go take it out on a homeless person. Or let's say his wife didn't give him a blowjob last night. Or he beat her up and now he's feeling bad about it. The victim pool consists of children and adults of every color. The victim pool consists of all of the groups that you guys make excuses for. You black people, and you white people, and you police people. You like how I said that? Police know that if they want someone to victimize, they can go victimize the homeless and get away with it. White people know that if they have a bad day or didn't get what they want, they can go down and victimize homeless people and get away with it. And of course, black people know that if they have a bad day, things don't go the way that they want it to, they can go take it out on a homeless person. And then your justification is always the same bullshit. Same bullshit that black folks are like, hey, you call us thugs, you call us drug dealers, you call us this and that and the other. And well, not all black people are like that, just like not all white people are like that. But you're going to point at the homeless and pretend we're all like that. Well, statistically, those of you in houses are more likely to be addicts. Statistically, those of you in houses are fucking pampered little bitches. Statistically, you're all trash. The entire country. There are a lot of good people, but really, how good are they? They're looking away. How good are they if they're making excuses? How good are they if they're not even willing to look at evidence? I'm tired of this racist bullshit. I'm tired of the actual victims, the homeless and the disabled, and foster children, having to take a back seat because you guys want to be racist. Oh, well, look what happened to this white guy. Look what happened to this black guy. Look what happened to this white guy. Look what happened to this black guy. So we got BLM posting up. Well, we got Cyntoia Brown, and then they post up a picture of a white race, right? Now, months after Cyntoia was released, people are still trying to claim that she's going to be in there until she's 55. She's already been released. Shit, she is fucking loaded. Yeah, people made her rich. And rightly so. Because unlike Zaid Atkinson, Cyntoia Brown was actually victimized in a heinous fashion. You know what heinous means, right? You might want to look up what a heinous crime is. What happened to Cyntoia Brown was a heinous crime. What happened to Zaid Atkinson, definitely illegal, for certainly immoral. But he wasn't assaulted. He wasn't murdered. Unlike many of the homeless people I know. And then we got people making excuses. Well, you know, if the cops didn't shoot them, they didn't kill them. Really? You can be charged with murder by exposure. We already established that you can go to prison or be hung for following orders. Yes, you can be hung for following orders, just like the Nazis at Nuremberg. There was a point to all that. Right now, I'm in a lot of pain and pumpkin pantry's open, so I'm going to try to motivate myself to hobble my happy ass down there and get something to eat. A lot of y'all are not bad people. You're just cowards. You know, I've had literally hundreds of parents tell me that the reason that they just take it is because it's just them. No, parents have a lot of power. You're the largest cross section of American society. The problem is you're dumb bitches who don't work together. The problem is you're a bunch of fucking idiots busy paying the people who victimize you and saying fucking thank you. You're fucking idiots. I always wanted kids, but I'm not willing to have kids. Do you know why? Because I don't want them being brought up in this shit. What happens if I have a baby with a black woman? Let's say I have a baby with a white woman, right? And this baby comes out and this baby gets blamed for every bad thing that has ever happened to black people just because he was born white or she. Although honestly, it's more likely to get blamed for everything if it's a boy. We blame boys for everything. We blame them for what they do, which is justified. But we also blame boys for what women do. We want to pretend that the other male victims don't exist. We want to pretend that the homeless victims don't exist. We want to pretend that the disabled victims don't exist. And then as excuses why it's okay to victimize them. Oh, well, he's mentally ill. She's homeless. And what's the number one reason for women becoming homeless? Fleeing domestic abuse. And it's not always fleeing as in it's his house and I live there, but he's beating me, so I'm leaving. It's not always like that. Sometimes it's mom with 3 kids. And between her and her husband, they can afford the bills just barely. Of course, daddy can't keep his nasty cock beaters to himself, like Ted Bollinger. And he wants to touch his daughters inappropriately, like Natalie Bollinger and Alicia Bollinger had to endure. Now, when daddy goes to prison, well, mommy can't pay the bills. She ends up homeless. And the kids end up in the system. People say, oh, well, why didn't you go to these people or go to those people? Do you have any family? Do you have any family? Why don't you ask your family for help? You know why the police ask that question? They want to know if you'll be able to defend yourself. They want to know if you will be able to sue them in court. And having just one family member who actually gives a shit is the difference. Don't you have any family you can go to? No. If I had family I could go to solve this issue, I wouldn't be going to the fucking cops. Obviously, I am talking to you because you're a fucking cop and I'm having to deal with abuse from criminals for crimes that were never committed by me. Who is it that got Natalie all strung out on heroin? That was her dad. Who was it that got her all strung out on meth? That was her dad. Who was it that molested her and raped her? That was her dad and her ex-boyfriend, Tim Beast. Who is it that was strung out on drugs? Was that me or was that Natalie? But I'm not pretty. I'm not young. Matter of fact, all of the things that are illegal to use against someone for housing or for hiring practices, things of that nature, those things are all things that I've had to deal with. Being discriminated against because of my age, being discriminated against because of my gender, being discriminated against because of my skin color, being discriminated against because it was just me. And these people knew they could get away with it. So fuck BLM, fuck the KK, fuck the police. Unity. Apes together strong. If you black, you need protected, you come to Chapel, Nebraska, I will protect you. I don't care what color you are, however, and I don't care what gender you are. Fact is, I'll take a bullet for you if you need someone to do so. If you need protected, I will do my goddamn best to protect you from where I'm at. When I was in Boulder, Colorado, I saved lives. There are at least a dozen people whose conversations on my YouTube here where they admit that I saved their lives. I saved a lot of lives when I was in Boulder. It wasn't just passing out blankets. I was also standing in front of Danny so that he couldn't stab that dude on the skateboard. It was standing in front of Cash and his knife because he was going after random people on the bike trail. And he was going after random people on the bike trail because he couldn't find Desiree, the person he wanted to stab. I stood in front of Zach Mandrake while he was coked out of his goddamn mind, gonna stab somebody at random on Pearl Street. What does Zach Mandrake have going for him? Well, his mom took him back. His mom paid for his ticket so he could go to Hawaii, where they live. That's Zach. But you know what? If you can't see black people as a human being, you're not a human being. If you can't see white people as human beings, you are not a human being. We either need to work together as human beings, or you people need to fucking kill me. I cannot emotionally handle your goddamn racist bullshit. Between being victimized for the rest of my life because y'all want to make this a race issue and having a bullet in my head, fuck all of you. Put a fucking bullet in my head. I don't want to see the harmful shit that happens to you. And I don't want to see the harmful shit that you're doing to others. When good men do nothing, that is evil enough. Those who ignore evil command it to be done. You know, I could go through a whole list of, well, over 50 people who said things similar, from Desmond Tutu to Martin Luther King Jr. to Martin Luther, the man for whom Martin Luther King Jr. is named after, the first Protestant priest. Also from Leonardo da Vinci, and a great many more. If you're going to make excuses why black people deserve it, then you deserve it. If you're going to make excuses why white people deserve it, then you deserve it. When it all comes down to it, though, while you guys are busy screaming at each other, you're taking it out on us. And although I'm here in low income, finally got a roof back over my goddamn head. You know, here's the thing, that roof was taken away from me over crimes I didn't commit. Crimes, not just one. What Natalie and her fucking junkie friends did was destroy an innocent man's life and think that he was just going to take it. Well, with all due respect, if I'm going to fight for black lives and I'm not black, and I'm going to fight for LGBT lives and I'm not LGBT or T, and I'm going to fight for women's rights and I'm not a woman, you're goddamn right I'm going to fight for my own goddamn rights, you fucking ignorant, stupid pieces of shit. And those of you who aren't, well, you'll at least get my point. Be safe. Keeps together strong.